Darkness. Darkness. Are you afraid of the dark? Because I sure am. And can you blame me? That stuff's scary. If you stare hard enough into it, you start to see things.
Come to Petey!
And Kingdom Hearts sure doesn't let us forget that. After all, so long as there is dark, there will be the shadows that lurk within. But Kingdom Hearts did tell us something else as well. That darkness can't exist without light, or vice versa. So is the dark really as bad as we make it out to be? Or could it be that the characters have not been properly addressing it, and in turn leads us to miss out on one very powerful force within the Kingdom Hearts series? Hearing that, you may think I'm going off the deep end, but I'm not about to sell you on the idea that darkness has actually been the good force all along, and that all these geezers are just poor misunderstood babies. Nah. See, in my last video, I brought up a lot about the folly of masters, and one of the constant thread of thoughts I had was that the masters mishandled the dark. But I didn't really go into too much detail on what it is they could have been missing out on. Which leads me to now, where I'm just gonna chat about how this series has tried to, subtly or non-subtly, show us that it's just as important to embrace the dark as it is to fight for light. Cause as we know, every heart, aside from exceptional cases like Princesses of Heart or Ventus, and I mean every heart, has darkness. Because it is, in fact, a natural part of life. Birth by Sleep has many interesting examples about the relationship of light and dark. One of the most immediately interesting moments to me was the scene between Aqua and Fairy Godmother.
As I feared, there's darkness here.
Wait! It's dangerous to fight the darkness with light, my dear. Rays of sun create dark shadows. Sadly, Lady Tremaine and both her daughters are jealous of Cinderella's charm and beauty, qualities that appear to you as light. Jealousy is darkness. Light and dark go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other.
Now, Fairy Godmother poses a very interesting point. That light and dark exist together regardless of how much light there is, and light even directly causing more dark. But she was mostly just telling us to be cautious about how we fight the dark with our light. There's also the entire duality between Ventus and Vanitas, being halves of a heart, much in the way that light and dark are halves of, well, everything. I don't know if any of you place a lot of stock in the Kingdom Hearts novels. They're not technically canon, but they do have some interesting extra perspective on the characters. For example, Vanitas is described as being in perpetual pain and suffering because he does not have the other half of his heart. Cool. Just another thing to consider about needing both your light and your darkness. And we consider Terra's downfall being his succumbing to the dark. But I instead posed the idea that he didn't address it proper. Because, this guy! And that's what made it so easy for Xehanort to get into his head. Because it's one thing to feed someone lies, it's another to feed them partial truths.
Master Ericus, you see, is so afraid of darkness that he too has succumbed. Not to darkness, but to light. It shines so bright, he forgets that light begets darkness. And Aqua and Ventus, their lights shine too bright. It is only natural that they cast shadows on your heart. Ericus is such a fool. Light and darkness, they are a balance, one that must always be maintained.
Clearly, this man is abusing that knowledge, using it for wrong, yada yada. But much in the way that he misuses connections versus Sora who embraces them, he's misusing balance. With a clear favor towards the dark. But he did wield dark and light. Just by manipulating others. That's how he pulled off the stunt in the Keyblade graveyard in KH3. So I'll give you that, Xehanort, you did what you set out to do. But for this video in particular, I'm talking about harmonizing the dark and the light in a deeper level. And if you don't believe that it's possible, well, allow me to introduce you to a certain someone. Is simply that guy, not for lack of suffering. And he certainly didn't fulfill prophecies. But I'd argue without his help that prophecy couldn't have been fulfilled. Or should I say without his screw up, because that's how Sora got the kingdom key. Most of all, important to this video, he did learn the importance of harmonizing his dark with his light. And the foreshadowing goes all the way back to Chain of Memories. Remember that game? Right off the bat, we have this amazing conversation with Mickey.
Up till now, I thought darkness was something that should never exist. Then, I spent time with you and changed my mind. The road you chose, I didn't know. Light and dark, back to back. With you, I think they might meet in a way nobody's seen before. Wonder where that road leads. I'd like to see myself. I'd like to walk the road with ya.
I was honestly very tempted to save a spot for him in my Sins of the Masters video, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Because Mickey's flaws don't really come from that flavor of ignorance or neglect. What has he even done wrong aside from not knowing things? He really is one of the most benevolent characters in the series, and his relationship with Riku really demonstrates what an open mind and heart he has to those who don't fit the mold. But he's not the only one who noticed Riku's potential.
You can't fade. There's no power that can defeat you. Not the light, not the dark. So don't run from the light, and don't fear the darkness. Because both will make you stronger.
Make me stronger? Darkness too?
Yeah, strength that's yours. The darkness inside your heart, it's vast and it's deep. But if you can, truly stare into it and never try to look away, you won't be afraid of anything again.
All this time I've tried to push the darkness away.
You've got to just remember to be brave. Know that the darkness is there and don't give in. If you do that, you will gain strength. The kind that's unlike any other. You'll be able to escape the deepest darkness.
And I'll be able to see through the brightest light.
Follow the darkness. It'll show you the way to your friends.
Can I face them?
You don't want to?
You know I do. Of course.
I didn't know. I hoped. I wanted you to face the darkness. Because you're the one who can.
Who let this girl cook? Can we just appreciate for a moment how ahead of the game Naminé was? She didn't just tell him that he could overcome his dark. She told him he would be stronger for it, and to accept his dark. And screw it, she was a bazillion% correct. Riku is as powerful as he is because he not only addressed the darkness within his heart, but he did so on hard mode by having Ansem harassing him. even young Xehanort is totally stumped by this.
I don't know how you did it, but you really have found a way to trap darkness inside your heart.
For sure, there's a lot of mystery about how Namine knew as much as she does, but I'll leave that to others to theorize about. For now, I wonder if it's simply the nature of being a nobody. We don't really attribute dark or light with the nobodies.
So why is it that you loathe us who teeter on the edge of nothing? We who were turned away by both light and dark, never given a choice.
So is it really any surprise that someone like Namine could see beyond all this absolutist mumbo-jumbo? Our heroes kinda had to learn a new perspective with them, and though it's not really in the vein of this light v dark conversation we're having, it did reveal that even those with good intentions could be prejudiced.
Just give it a rest. You're nobodies. You don't even exist. You're not sad about anything.
Just thought it was worthwhile to mention for really the nature of this topic. Yeah, the Reverse Rebirth campaign is so good and a great redemption for Riku. And it for sure started his journey in mastering the dark. But I can't help but notice that part of that journey involved having people who were willing to accept him for him. Darkness and all. No judgment, just support. And that there leads me into what I really think about the dark. Is darkness really bad? I think it has more nuance than that. We know darkness feeds off the negativity of others. And negativity, much like the dark in our hearts, is simply inherent to the human experience. When I was going off on my rants about how uncomforting the masters were, and it really became clear to me just how sterile they'd have it if they could. If only to chase off this darkness they so fear. But you kinda shouldn't. If I could pull from an example from another media source, I'd like to bring up that movie Inside Out. Kinda mid-movie, if I'm gonna be honest, but its ending was what really captivated me. Remember that climax where Riley finally got to break down and feel all these emotions? It pretty much showed us that we need to be able to express ourselves, even if expressing things that aren't so pleasant. When I first saw that climax in Dark Road, that was my immediate thought when it was revealed what Baldur went through. Whether darkness had a hand in how things went horribly or not, being locked up alone after seeing your sister get mercilessly throttled by your hand or whoever's hand, whatever the heck happened there. That's rough, man. It's really rough. And that's exactly why darkness was able to strengthen its grip on Baldur. And to just trace so many instances throughout the series where characters didn't really address the pain within them. It just made them easier to lose control of themselves and let darkness whoop on in and do it for them. Yeah, I know, talking feelings and stuff won't save everybody from the dark, but I think that the way that Namine explained it really put it nicely. That you have to be brave and really look at the dark. Look at the parts of yourself that you think are ugly. Look at the pain, the sadness, the fear, the jealousy. It's okay to feel those things. And it's okay to have darkness in your heart. That isn't going to stop you from finding the light. Riku did it. Why can't others? Now then, it wouldn't be a J video if I didn't divulge into some crazy ideas this has given me. Still on the subject of Riku. For one, I find the concept of being able to trap darkness within very reminiscent of the plans that the Master of Masters has for the Foretellers. I think the link is very strong there, because unlike the situation with Odin and Baldur, where Odin's solution was to outright destroy Baldur, the Master says he doesn't want to sacrifice the Foretellers. And I believe him when he says it, folks. He has faith in their strength, and if he could see the future, then he would know that Riku proves the thesis. And speaking of the Master of Masters, this one is gonna get a bit out there, but we're entering an entirely new arc of Kingdom Hearts. And the Master of Masters is one of the most strongest signs to me at that shift. Because this man, despite all his evil and all his dealings with the dark, is in favor of the light. Allegedly. So I propose the idea that we may be entering a time where we have enemies on the side of light instead of those of darkness. And is that really such an out there concept? Playable characters have access to offensive moves that utilize the light. Light is not some harmless tee-hee-ha-ha ability. It could pack a punch. Also kind of suspicious that some Heartless can even use light ability. And we've seen time and time again what happens when people in favor of light do it for wrong. Ericus himself concedes that his heart was one of dark for the way that he treated Terra and Ventus. So, suppose that the foretellers, masters that are supposed to house the darkness, yet simultaneously want to preserve the light, are our enemies. And the biggest bad we're going to inevitably be up against would be their own master, the Master of Masters. I'm not at all proposing light is suddenly bad, just that it could be used for bad, much of the way that darkness had been. Like, to use an example from another game, remember how in Smash Ultimate, you could go up against Galeem or Darken? Hey, wait a minute. And the way to fully beat that campaign was to beat both of them, and essentially maintain the balance of light and dark? Kinda what I'm getting at here, huh? I would like to see these concepts introduced to Kingdom Hearts. And you know, since we're going in a whole new direction, this would kind of shake things up a bit. I think it would also be an interesting direction for Sora, because if you will notice, he too has had a subtle development with his dark. Anti-form and rage form are actually not the same. Both are penalties and come from the darkness in Sora's heart that was really kicked off ever since he turned into a Heartless once upon a time. Here's how Nomura describes that difference. Rage does indeed have characteristics that are reminiscent of Anti, but it's basically a separate thing setup-wise. Anti is based on Sora getting completely stained in darkness, but Rage doesn't go quite that far. It's based on him going into a rampage state, controlled by feelings of anger. Which, for one, kinda cool that Sora's anger can push him that far, but it also demonstrates that his darkness too is evolving. But harmony can in fact be achieved, like this here double form I've been drawing. Yep, I think Riku is a great ambassador for accepting and mastering one's dark. And I like the idea that Sora can be that too. If not for his own experience with the dark, then for his open-hearted nature. And he just may have to be in this new era of this series. A different perspective could go a long way. All of this to say, there are thematic, practical, and theory ideas that go into this concept of harmony between light and dark. It's a power unlike any other. I don't think Kingdom Hearts has particularly rubbed this idea in our faces, but it did leave just enough hints here and there for it to really feel meaningful to me. It sure has been enough to read super hard into this whole video, huh? And what more can I ask for as a Kingdom Hearts fan? But just remember, no matter how scary the darkness gets and how blinding the light can be.
Why do you hate the darkness?
We don't hate it. It's just kinda scary. But the world's made of light and darkness. You can't have one without the other, 'cause darkness is half of everything.
Oh man, did this one get away from me. I did my best to keep my thoughts as organized as possible, okay? But I just had so many feelings about it. But enough about what I think. If you liked the video, give that thumbs up a good old rub. And if you have anything to add to this topic, I'd love to hear it. You guys have always been super insightful and I love reading what you have to say. So feel free to let me hear it in the comments. But now, this cow needs to return to the barn for some Mimi time. And if you're watching this at some ungodly hour, you should probably do the same. Thanks for watching and see you next time.